English verbs. Listen and answer these questions. What do verbs do? Do English verbs have different forms? And do verbs always need to be used with an object? A verb is one of the main parts of the English language. Almost every clause and sentence contains a verb. Verbs express activity. English verbs do have different forms, and verbs can be used with or without an object. How did you get on? Number 1. Verbs express activity. The answer to number 2 is yes. English verbs do have different forms. And the answer to number 3 is no. English verbs don't always have to be used with an object. So what do verbs do? I said before that nearly every clause or sentence has a verb. So a verb is one of the main parts of an English clause or sentence. The role of the verb is to express activity. This can be an action, state, or occurrence. For example, they are speaking. Here the verb is speaking, which is an action. In this example, it is a state, know, the state of knowing something. Do I know you? And number 3 shows an occurrence, the verb become, becoming. I became a teacher. Let's have a look at action verbs. So action verbs express either physical or mental action. They tell us what the subject of a clause or sentence is doing. For example, the student ran home from school. The verb is run, and this is a physical action. And the subject is the student. The verb shows the action that the student is doing. In this example, it's a mental action. She thought about the day they had met. So thinking is not a physical action, it's a mental action, something that happens in your mind. Other physical actions include walk, call, help, and play. Other mental actions include want, explain, consider, and deduce. Stative verbs express a state rather than a physical or mental action. These often relate to feelings, relationships, and states of being. Here are some examples. Do you know this man? This is a state of knowing. Do you know this man? Here the verb is know. And I love coffee. The verb is love. These verbs are not usually used in the continuous tenses with the ing form. So we say I know him, not I am knowing him. English verbs can either be transitive or intransitive, and sometimes both. Transitive verbs need to take an object. This means that when you have a transitive verb in a sentence, there must also be an object. For example, the verb keep. It needs to be connected to an object, like in this example. My friend keeps chickens. My friend is the subject, the verb is keeps, and it has an object, chickens. This is correct. We can't say my friend keeps, because the verb keep must always take an object. It's transitive. Intransitive verbs don't need an object. So, for example, the verb squawk, which is the sound a chicken makes. So we can say, the chicken squawked. Here we've only got a subject and the verb. An object isn't needed because this verb is intransitive. However, some verbs can be both transitive and intransitive, depending on how they are used. Here's an example with the verb wash. In this sentence, the children washed the dishes. The verb is transitive. It takes an object, the dishes. However, in this example, I got up and washed. The verb is intransitive. There is no object. So I mentioned before that verbs have different forms. English verbs are often divided into regular verbs and irregular verbs. Regular verbs have a past form and a past participle form that is made by adding ed to the verb. For example, the verb wash. The past form is washed, and the past participle is washed as well, both with the ed added to it. Here's another one. Play, played, and played. Work, worked, and worked. Irregular verbs have different past and past participle forms. For example, the verb eat. Its past form is ate, and its past participle form is eaten. Think is another irregular verb. Think, thought, thought. And so is go. The past form of go is went. But the past participle form of go can either be been or gone. Verbs also have a present participle form. This is the ing form of the verb. So wash becomes washing. Eat becomes eating. Go becomes going. And so on.